Hey everybody, Mr. Dustin here. This week, on Thursday, we are celebrating a holiday as a whole nation. You probably know it well, called Turkey Day. Wait a minute. No. It's called Thanksgiving, right? But it's a day whenever we are supposed to be thankful for the things that we have. And I'm afraid, because we call it Turkey Day, we all know what that is. But we may have made it into a day where we just get together and we just eat a lot of food, and really probably entirely too much. I know I usually gain a pound or two. So I want to take this week together and consider things that we can give thanks for. And maybe some of those things will surprise you. So let's get to it. As we get started, I want to ask you a question. For what are you thankful? As I would normally say, what are you thankful for? Do you have a list of things that you can say, I am thankful for this? If you don't, or even if you do, I want you to press pause, take just a few minutes and write down a list of things that you are thankful for, and be sure that you come up with at least 5 things. Yeah. And then once you have your list of at least 5 things, you can write as many as you want, but at least 5, we're going to come back and talk some more. You may have come up with other things than what I'm about to say, but since I can't hear you tell me those things, I don't actually know. So I'm just going to guess at some of those things, but I bet your list has things on it like these. You might say, I'm thankful for my family, maybe my parents, maybe my friends, maybe my church, maybe my house. I'm thankful for having food to eat, for clothes to wear, things like that, right? Those are all good things to be thankful for. They're great things in our lives, and they're things that we all want to have in life. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Those are good things. But they're also things that are very easy to be thankful for. I want to look at a passage. This comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 16 through 18. It says, Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. There's another translation called the Amplified Version. I want to read what it says. It says, In every situation, no matter what the circumstances, be thankful and continually give thanks to God, for this is the will of God for you in Christ Jesus. Give thanks in all circumstances? It's pretty easy to be thankful for the things that we just listed, right? For our family, our friends, food, our house, all those things. But sometimes, all circumstances includes some circumstances, some time, some situations, some things that we would describe as bad. And whenever you think about it, and you may have experienced some of these already, aren't some of the things that happen in life really, really hard? For instance, right now, we are all living in what we would call an historic time, because there's a worldwide pandemic going on with this whole virus of COVID, right? That's something that I would call hard. That's a hard time. Some days, as we live in the world right now, maybe you don't get to go to school. Maybe you have to stay at home and watch Zoom instead of being there with your friends. Maybe you don't get to go play with friends that you want to. Maybe you don't get to go see your family like you normally would. Those are hard things. Makes life difficult. So the question, give thanks in all circumstances, continually. How do we give thanks during these times that are hard? I want to look at a man. His name is Job. You may have heard of him before, and if you're in the 66 Club, you probably have said Job because it's a book of the Bible. But it's about a man who had some really hard times And I want to look at how he responded to them. So in the first chapter, in Job chapter 1, Job's family, his sons and daughters, his servants, his money, his livestock, all get taken from him. In fact, there's a servant comes rushing in and tells him, you know, this just happened. These people came and they took your sheep and your cattle or your camels or whatever. And while that one is still speaking, another one comes in and said, this just happened and it was bad. This just happened and it was bad. And another one comes in and your children even died. All these things, these terrible disasters fall upon Job. How would you deal with that? How would you respond to those kinds of things happening? Let's look and see how Job responded. This is chapter 1, verse 20 through 22. At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then he fell to the ground in worship and said, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. He tore his clothes. That's something that we don't really see people do today. What does that mean? In the Old Testament, people, whenever they're really sad, they would tear their clothes, or if something bad happened, they would tear their clothes as a public display of distress. It says he shaved his head. That's another indicator of, if you read in Isaiah and Jeremiah, there's a couple of passages in there that talk about how people would have baldness of their head. They would have shaved their head in mourning for other things. And so people would shave their head as a public display of it being in distress or in mourning. So those that were grieving would be the ones with shaved head. So he tore his clothes and he shaved his head, but then what did he do? It says he fell on the ground and he worshiped God. Even in the midst of these terrible things and so many bad things that he had just lost, that just occurred, he worshiped God. And it says he did not charge God with wrongdoing. I may be wrong, but I believe that this is the key to being thankful during the hard times. And truly, this is the key to being thankful during the good times as well. It's easy, though we don't think about it, it's easy to get lost during the good times because we can forget about God. Everything's going fine. I don't need God, so we think. But that's not true. We always need God. And the key to thanksgiving, to giving thanks, is worshiping our God because He is faithful and He is good. Yes, sometimes bad things, they will happen. But that is because we live in a broken world that got broken because sin entered into the world through Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and that caused the brokenness in which we live. So this week, during the week of Thanksgiving, I want you to read with me. I'm going to read every single day on the Facebook page from Psalm 118. I'll post a bookmark schedule so you can follow along, that you should be able to see as well, so that we can read through this together. I want you to read this with me. And as we read, think about each of the sections and how God is praised in it. There are several things listed that seem bad whenever you read through the psalm, but then the psalmist will say something positive about God. He'll say, then the Lord helped me, or something along those lines. So as we go through this time of pandemic, I want you to look for God. He is not hard to find, and in fact, He wants to be found by you. And when you look for Him, I know you will see Him working, even in the hard times. And I think that is how we can give thanks in all circumstances. Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His steadfast love endures forever. So I want you to have a great week. I will see you next Sunday. And until then, be strong and courageous. Have a good week.